Thanks for joining us. And today we're going to talk about how to awaken your Kundalini safely. So in many different yogic paths, we have the idea of Kundalini, which is talked about as an energy that begins at the base of the spine, rises up the spine, and then illuminates the upper spiritual centers and leads to expanded states of consciousness. There are a variety of symbols that are used to represent Kundalini, one of them being a serpent. The idea of this energy is having this sinuous serpentine quality as it moves up the spine. If you look at representations of Shiva, who is in yogic lore is considered the king of the yogis, you see these cobras, on the back of his head that are coming up, and sometimes it's up to like 7 cobras representing this Kundalini activation, this energy, this primal energy rising up the spine and then going into the upper centers in the head area and creating this expanded states of consciousness. Now, there's one symbol that's really interesting that's used to represent Kundalini, and that is the Ouroboros. And the Ouroboros is the snake eating its own tail. And this is an alchemical symbol. This symbol goes back to even ancient Egyptian times, and as well the Greeks used this symbol, the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail. And this is really interesting, and it's used, there is a Kundalini Yoga Upanishad talk about the Ouroboros as a representation of the Kundalini. What exactly is Kundalini? Kundalini has been mystified time and time again by different teachers. Some teachers claiming that they could activate the Kundalini of their students, or that Kundalini awakening is dangerous, or that it is a prerequisite to spiritual developments. If you look at the experiences of Gopi Krishna, who wrote about his Kundalini experience, and his technique was basically being aware of the top of his head, experienced this expansion of energy from the base of his spine that basically went up to the top of his head. The challenge was that it wasn't necessarily a harmonious Kundalini awakening, if you will. In modern Korea, we're informed by a Taoist internal alchemy perspective, and the idea of Kundalini as being some kind of mystical force is not something that we agree with. It's really about the chi, the life force flow within you. There's definitely something that flows up the spine once you start to do some kind of meditation techniques. If you're just sitting and following the breath meditation, this is unlikely to happen. But as soon as you involve the pranayama techniques, sort of the breathing techniques or visualization techniques, which starts to connect to the energy pathways within you, you start to get an energetic movement. And this feeling of this energy rising up your spine, this life force rising up your spine, is what Kundalini is. It isn't a separate force. It is part of the one chi. So there's different expressions of chi. Sometimes chi is in a yang phase, meaning it's expanding. So you think of something rising, moving up. And sometimes it's descending or contracting. And yin phase, which is a contracting phase. If we look at the Ouroboros symbol, we can see that the snake is eating its own tail. And this is basically a circle, a perpetual circle. And that's the point with Kundalini. And if you want to awaken Kundalini safely, or the flow of energy within your energetic architecture safely, you need to ensure that basically it starts to go in a circle, that it is not just going in one direction and staying there. And people who have these experiences, these explosions of this Kundalini awakening and all sorts of stuff that happens, similar to Gopi Krishna, and then the decline in the body's vitality, and basically, it's like jumping off a cliff. That's not really a sustainable, harmonious way for developing Kundalini energy or the flow of energy within you. What you want to do is circulate it. And when we look at the Ouroboros symbol, the circle of the snake eating its own tail is very analogous to the microcosmic orbit, and that's exactly what we do at modern Kriya. Like the snake eating its tail, like the Ouroboros, we have the chi flowing up the spine to the upper centers and then down the front of the body in this perpetual loop. And so when the chi or the life force is flowing in a perpetual loop, you're not going to get the congestions in different parts of your energetic anatomy. So people who practice a kind of Kundalini awakening that only goes from the base of the spine up to the top of the head and doesn't flow elsewhere are going to get a whole bunch of energetic congestion in the head area. And consequently, there's going to be problems. So what do we do at Modern Kriya? Well, informed by a Taoist internal alchemy approach, the first thing that we would do if the energy is rising up our spine is take our tongue, the tip of our tongue, and touch it to the top of the palate behind the teeth. This is connecting an energetic switch. So up the spine is following part of this fire path, if you will, of the Ouroboros, right? And then the chi flowing down the center line of the body, connecting with the tongue to the palate, flows down the center line of the body, of the front of the body, all the way down to the perineum. So this circle going up the back and down the front is the safe way to deal with Kundalini awakening. So whatever techniques you're doing where you're having a Kundalini awakening, you want to make sure that you go in the loop, just like the Ouroboros. You want to make sure you bring that Kundalini, that chi, that life force up the back, connect your tongue to the palate, and then bring it down the front of the body. So if you're doing some kind of spinal breathing pranayama that's activating your Kundalini energy, so say it's just doing this ujjayi breath from the base of the spine up to the top of the head or whatever, you want to make sure that when you do the exhale that you bring it down the front of the center line of the body, touch your tongue to your palate, bring it down the center line of the body all the way down to the base of the spine. That is doing whatever pranayama that you're doing in the microcosmic orbit and ensuring that perpetual loop of the chi flow, which will allow a safe activation of Kundalini and a safe flow of the life force within you. It's not going to get stuck in your head and to create problems for you. So if you have any questions about this video, feel free to send me an email at info@modernkriya.com. Also check our website at modernkriya.com and our YouTube channel. So thanks for joining us, and we will see you next time.